Welcome to Point and Click, a Telltale podcast. I am Jordan C. Johnson,
And I am Adam Razak.
Today we're talking, continuing with our discussions on The Walking Dead. We're on up to the third episode of the first season, Long Road Ahead.
And for me, okay, I'll say this. I definitely did not like this episode as much, anywhere near as much now as I did the first time I played it.
You know, I've noticed about these replay. This is the first time I've ever replayed The Walking Dead. I've only played it once before this, and I'm noticing. I think this might be the first time I've actually replayed any Telltale at any kind of length. And I'm noticing that as much as I love Telltale, I think the replaying for me is highlighting the flaws more than it's highlighting the positives.
Yeah, I was going to say that this, as much as I enjoy doing this podcast, it's also kind of a curse because it's making me more aware of the problems, like the very, very base level problems that Telltale has with their games. And
like I
can't unsee anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I played through this season, the whole time I was like, man, this is just fucking killer. And I think part of it might just be because of there was nothing else like it, and it was the first time we'd seen Telltale do anything like this. And to be fair, the highs are still great. There are still a lot of great things here, and it's not like that's not a great game, but oh man, those lows, you feel it, especially when you're trying to get through this episode so we can talk about it, and you're just like, oh my god, is this still going? Yeah, there's some rough patches in this episode.
Yeah, and like I've said, I hope with just this series, just with The Walking Dead Season 1, I hope this is the only one, I'm pretty sure it is, where a lot of their old unfortunate holdovers from Back to the Future and Jurassic Park are still here. I think unless a replay disproves that for me, I think a lot of my hang-ups with this series are just because of the holdovers from their let's say darker days of making games.
Sure, or lighter, I guess.
Sure. Oh yeah. Oh well.
Much lighter.
Like their old stuff is Sesame Street compared to what they do now.
So, do you want to start with Lily? Because I want to talk about Lily.
Sure.
Okay. I've mentioned before in the previous episodes how I've been sort of frustrated with the limited ability to deal with Lily and Larry. After this episode, I was like, it's to the point now where I was like, really, like, okay, this is ridiculous, because Larry and Lily caused nothing to this group but bad things from the moment they were introduced to the moment they're taken out in this episode. And the whole time I've been playing this, all I wanted to do was get rid of them. Like Larry, from like instantly, I was like, "Fuck you! I don't want you in this group." The second he punched Lee, I was done with him. And the second Lily didn't shoot the walker attacking Lee, I was done with her too. And Lily is a psycho in this episode, and I get that she's like stressed and stuff, but there's no excuse. Like, you can't have somebody like this in a group in this kind of scenario. And it's just the whole time I'm just like, why am I still being forced to fucking drag her ass around everywhere? I don't understand. Like, she needs to be gone. And sure enough, the worst happened just as I was always afraid it would, and she fucked everything up. And I don't know about you, but I left her there.
Oh, I did too. I left her there the first time I played it.
Yeah, me too. What do you know what happens if you don't?
I did that on my second playthrough. She steals the RV. Like when you're when you're outside fucking around with the train, she'll just because they have her in captivity, and she'll be sitting there in the RV, and then all of a sudden you'll hear the engine turn on, and everybody will run over, and then she'll just look at you and from what I can remember, literally say, I have to go. I have to think. I have to be on my own for a while, and then she just steals the RV, and it's like, well, fuck you too.
She's terrible.
Yeah.
I honestly, this is another opportunity where I wished like at the end of the second episode, I talked about how there are the limitations of how dark and brutal you can go with your character are frustrating in these. And I think would have been really, because after that second episode, for me, Lee feels like a changed man at the end of that, after what he had just done in front of the group.
Sure.
But at the beginning of this, he just goes back to his old self, and you can't really have any say in it, which is frustrating. So for me, I'm kind of like, okay, she could come with us, or we could leave her. Why don't I have an option to like kill her right there, or like punch her, or some, you know what I mean? Like, why isn't there an option to go even farther if you wanted to, and like have the group have to deal with you after how you react, even if you react, extremely.
Did you keep Carly?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to shoot Lily in the head after her killing.
Oh, instantly!
Carly.
At least shoot her in the head.
Yeah, well, at the very least. I mean, if I had the ability to live out gruesome fantasies, I would have it where it's like, tie her to the road and pull a snidely whiplash and just run her over with the RV.
Jesus Christ, dude!
I'm telling you, man, I fucking hated Lily, especially after her killing Carly, because I forgot about that.
See, I think. Oh, really? I see. I knew that was coming.
It's weird. Like I last time I played this was only just a year ago, but I had forgotten that. And I know that you can leave her behind, but I'd forgotten that she like shot whoever you chose to save from the
pharmacy?
Hardware, the pharmacy. Yes.
Yeah, and like. Those characters, maybe if there had been some kind of redemption that either Larry or Lily had like given something back to the group in the end, but they don't. They just fucking destroy everything, and they kill a perfectly good person, and they just torment all these other people for no reason. And it's like at the end, I'm just like, why wasn't I allowed to kick them out when I wanted to right at the beginning? Because I was completely fucking right about these assholes.
Well, it's a problem. Like I mentioned in the last episode, I think if there's any example of bad writing in this particular season, it's with the characters of Larry and Lily. I think everyone else is very, maybe not everybody is, full of depth and a rich history and writing, but competently written, believably written. But
I mean,
Lily and Larry are just extremes, and I just think it's lazy.
Yeah, I mean, compare them and their adverse actions to Ben and the him like stealing the supplies, and he admits to it later. You do find out it is him.
Talk about wanting to kill somebody and not being able to. Yes.
See, no, absolutely. I don't agree. That's actually what I was going to say. I think, like, Ben, I understand why he did what he did.
No.
And for me, and like, and his whole, and the way he sort of treats that whole thing at the end, like, I feel for him. Like, he was put, he's young, he's trying to do the best. He's like insecure and scared. And he gets put in a shitty situation where he sort of gets stuck between a rock and a hard place, and then he digs himself into a hole, and he's scared to admit it and dig himself out of it. And bad shit happens, but I can understand that. There's a humanity to the reason for what he does. That, for me, Larry and Lily is just inexcusable. They're just dicks. They just are stressed out, and they are just being horrible to everyone, and they make everything worse. And, like, that whole thing with Ben stealing those things did not have to turn out like it did. It only turned out like it did because Lily went fucking insane.
I strongly disagree on that. I think with Ben's incompetence, I think that's the other extreme too, because he is such a fuck up that he's like liar and a fuck up that it.
But he's also in high school.
Like, I know, but Clementine's younger than him. Clementine is a child, but she, of course, she's not given the same sense of responsibility that Ben is. But Ben maybe not doing maybe if he had just done the whole thing with the bandits, it would have been like, okay, that I can forgive. But like in later episodes, he is such a fuck up, and
I don't remember. So I guess we'll get to
moron that it's like, dude, I want to throw you from this train right now.
But for me, the difference is that, again, like, that fuck up nature is coming from something understandable. Like, he's young and stupid, and he's terrified, and he's trying to be competent, and he's afraid that he isn't, and he isn't. But it's like, at least I can understand that. Whereas, like, Lily and Larry are grown adults who, for me at that point, there's no excuse for the kind of behavior either of them are exhibiting. So I don't feel a lot of sympathy there.
I think I've seen, I can't think of any like specifics right now, but I've seen characters like this in like movies and video games and TV shows where it's like the fuck up character that does a bunch of stupid stuff, and yet the group continuously just drags him around. I've seen characters like Ben before, so for me at least, there really isn't anything about Ben that strikes me as believable in a humane sort of way, or a character that like stands out from all those other clumps of idiots that I've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not so much like an originality thing for me. I just think that the development of him makes sense and is relatable in ways that Larry and Lily never reach.
The thing I will give Telltale, and maybe this is jumping the gun here, but I do like that Ben's arc can either end one way or another, and it fits his character in both ways, and I like that. I won't go into specifics, but I like how his arc ends in both ways.
I think the difference really is they both do things that have bad effects in the group, right? But Ben is doing it because he digs himself into a mistake, and he's afraid to get out of it. He's afraid to admit that he's done wrong, and it scares him. Whereas Lily and Larry, they don't dig themselves into mistakes. They just inflame every situation by being insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not an equal thing. And I think comparing them to Clementine doesn't really work either, because Clementine does also like make dumb mistakes for being young. I mean, this episode ends with her talking to people on a walkie-talkie and basically, setting up their own ambush, which and that's not her fault, because she's a kid and she's young and naive and whatever. Not her fault at all. But I don't think it's that dissimilar from Ben. He's older, but Ben probably wouldn't make that mistake, but he's making a similar mistake that's more appropriate to his age.
I think both actions I don't like. Like, I mean, I say Clementine is a child and she doesn't make dumb mistakes like that, but like even the whole thing with the walkie-talkie, I'm kind of like, really? Like, you should.
But she's
you
like
should know
8.
Better,
but she's like 8.
But she's seen enough. Like, even 8-year-old would probably know, like, don't do this, because in this new world, like, don't do something like that.
Not if she's blinded by wanting to see her parents, which is all she's wanted this whole time.
Oh, that's right.
And that's what the bandits are offering her.
Oh, that's right. Okay. You know what? Never mind. I forgot that's what they were promising her. It's not just some random person talking. Okay. Never mind. Now I remember.
Yeah. So now at this point, we've left Lily behind, and begins the longest, most puzzle-driven fucking Telltale episode.
Okay, before we move on, can I say one thing before the train?
What?
Can I say one thing before we move on to the train?
Yeah.
I really liked the investigation stuff. Like, I wish they expanded on that. I really liked that. This episode
drags so hard, and it's not just because it's long and there are frustrating limitations like that. It's because there are like point-and-click puzzles constantly. You begin with that fucking chalk investigation, which, I mean, I guess we'll talk about that and we don't agree, but man, was that a pain in the ass.
I liked doing that a lot.
Also, then you have to deal with that fucking terrible shooting scene, which is not fun or interesting at all.
It's wonky and imprecise, and I hated it.
And then you get to like the infamous train startup, and then you get to the like cutting down the truck, and it's like, oh my god, enough.
Now I will say I've joked about the train part, but this time around, at least the beginning portion of it, I didn't mind it, probably just because I knew what to do. But that fucking oil tanker part at the end, I no.
See,
That
this
I did
is
not like
like
that.
okay, this is the difference. Like when I was talking in like the second episode about how that was a puzzle done well because it's logical. You don't get stuck because you're like, wait, what am I supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking through, okay, well, what would make sense in this scenario? In
Mm-hmm.
this episode, I feel like we've gone back to it's not about what makes sense; it's about what they want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are about tons of different ways you could make these puzzles work,
Yeah.
basically. But there's really only one like avenue to the end, and you have to fucking wrestle it out what they want you to do, and it's just annoying. It's just like, can we just get past this so I can get some more like, dialogue and decisions and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, gameplay is Telltale's worst enemy.
Um, I'd say more. I don't know if I'd say like the gameplay itself is inherently bad. I'd say the situations they put themselves in are their biggest weakness. Like the sequences that they create out of puzzle elements is what I dislike the most about Telltale.
Sure.
Like
It's
all
just
the walking in around and the pointing and clicking, that doesn't bother me just from a like a base level. Like just the idea
yeah,
it runs
I
smoothly,
agree.
it's fine, but
I agree with you
shit
on that.
like the oil tanker and the at least parts of the train bit, I'm just like, enough. Move
Because
on.
it's not just that you're walking and pointing and clicking. I mean,
Mhm.
that's fine. That is the gameplay. That's what you're going to be doing.
Mhm.
It's that when I'm gonna be playing this Walking Dead video game built around like wrenching decisions and character interactions and dialogue trees,
Yeah.
do I really want to be sitting there to spend my time figuring out how to cut down a tanker? Is that interesting or compelling at all, or is that just a giant fucking hiccup in the pacing? And it's just like I get meeting new characters and talking to them, and that part's fine. It's just all the junk you have to do, and which that junk, it can be okay if it's paced well and like logical to figure out and not based in one funneling avenue.
My biggest, basically my reaction to this episode this time around was, okay, well, I'll start with my first reaction. When I played it years ago, I've always said that I don't remember most of my reactions to specific moments the first time I played it. The moment, the duck Katya moment is one of the very few I can distinctly remember where I just remembered thinking, this is way too much. Like, I was just devastated throughout this whole first half of this episode, just with Lily shooting Carly and the whole thing with Duck getting bitten, that slow, unbearable build up to like the moment when they finally have to deal with the problem. It was draining the first time I played it. I never had really, I'd seen death before in video games plenty of times. Even like characters I like bite the dust in games before, but back then I had never seen anything like what they did with Duck and Katya. It just felt like a lightning bolt.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I think I get that. I get that, but I think that whole thing is undermined by how frustrated I was with Kenny and Katya, because the whole time, like the second he gets bit, it's like, we all know what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I was pissed because we knew this was going to happen with Larry, and Kenny had no problem jumping in there and fucking smashing that guy's head.
Mhm.
And now this son of a bitch, when it's his kid, is going to pussy out and endanger everyone else. Fuck you. No, you do not get to do that. Fuck you. This is not like
That seems believable to me. That seems believable.
It's believable,
even
but you're
though...
not allowed. You're not allowed to deal with it again. That's the problem.
Sure, but
that reaction is fine as long as I can deal with it how I want to deal with it. Which for me would be, no, this is not an option. We are not taking him like this. I'm not putting him in the back of the train with Clementine like this. So, but you're not allowed to do that. You just have to give in, and that's the stuff that drives me crazy in these games. That I feel like there's really no reason for that to happen. They should be like more creative and allow you more options with that kind of stuff.
And I agree, but given the limitations that they bring to this, that's one of the things that didn't bother me. It's not like the motel part where you got to go through a long sequence of let's say like they build a puzzle around getting Duck supplies and water and food and stuff like that. That's not what they don't have a puzzle like that. So bringing Duck along doesn't make that inherently frustrating for me. Just as from a gameplay and narrative perspective, you know, like, I mean, sure, you can pick up the water and give it to him, but that's completely optional. But I think Kenny's reaction to it is, I think, like, if both of them had reacted like Kenny, which they initially do, but Koch is the one that comes around to the, you know, like the realization that this is happening and we finally have to do this. And what's cool about this is that usually, I think in most situations when a child is in danger, it's usually like stereotypically the woman that's the hysteric one and the one that is in denial about it, because, you know, this is her child from her own body, and it's something that stereotypically people, like, when they write situations like this, it's the woman that's the emotional one. But I find it interesting that Kenny, who is portrayed as this like tough man who's like not afraid to like speak his mind and call people on their shit, he's the one that takes it the hardest, and he's the one that can't accept it until the very end. And Koch is the one that is the rational minded one in this situation. And I really
until she commits suicide.
Yeah. But even then, I think that's like, to me, even then, that's believable. Like, it's something like so I'll go for an example. Like, you're psyching yourself up to ask a girl out, and then when it comes down to that actual moment, you wuss out and you can't do it. And sure, this is nothing like even close to being comparable like that, but it's that same maybe that same situation structure where you hype yourself up to do something, you tell others that you know, like, I am ready to do this thing, but when the moment comes down to it, you can't do it. And that's what Katja does, and where she commits suicide.
Honestly, I think both of their reactions are totally logical with their character development, because I mean, yeah, Kenny, I don't see Kenny as like tough man. Like, for me, Kenny I think Kenny's
maybe more stubborn.
I think he's just extremely emotional throughout the entire game. Like, that's my takeaway with him, and that's why it makes so much sense. I think he's stubborn, and he's convinced that he's right, and he's very like ready, assertive and everything, but that's because it's based in this sort of emotional heat. He's always sort of hot-headed and in the moment and yelling at people, even if he's right a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But that's how he puts it out there. Whereas Kachi is always the more measured one. She's always the one trying to calm him down and say he's right, but we don't need to be acting this way. And I think part of it too may be that she's like, she's a vet or a doctor? I think she's a vet, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, she's just like this. She's the more like grounded, professional, stable one, and he's sort of the hot-headed, you know, loose cannon guy. You know,
I appreciate that switch in gender stereotypes too when the moment comes down to it, because I rarely ever see that when it's the man that freaks out, or he's usually the one saying like, you know, honey, we have to do this, but it's like, no, Kenny's the one that. He goes to extremes. I mean, if you want to take it there, he goes to extremes to deny that his son is going to turn, and he knows what he has to do. Like, so when you confronted Kenny this time around, what did you do?
Well, I kind of wound up in a fight with him on accident. It was one of those sort of in the heat of the moment Telltale decisions where you just choose one of the dialogue options, and after you choose it, you're like, I don't really even know what that means, and I didn't really even mean to say that, but it just kind of came out weird. But like Telltale, I don't regret doing it because I think that makes sense with the character. But I wound up choosing the option like how many other sons are you gonna let die or something, which I don't really even know what that means, but it got him mad, and then he calmed down. So yeah.
See, this time around, like both times I'd played it, I had let him punch me until he finally calmed down. But this time,
fuck that! No way.
I talked him out of it. This time, I talked to him, and I basically said to him, like, look, I know you're feeling guilt over letting I think it's Herschel's son die back in episode 1, and I know, like, I didn't even know that was a thing, that he was still feeling guilty about that. So that was news
that
to
was
me.
poorly developed, I think.
Yeah, I was like, what? Okay, I'll choose this option, see what happens, and sure enough, that's the one that it's like Kenny won't punch you or try to start shit with you. But oh my god, the moment when like you actually have to shoot Doug, or like Kenny shoot Doug, and then Katja's suicide. Just
did you let Kenny shoot him?
No, I can't do that. Every time I'm like, give me the gun, I'll take care of it, and it's just
I think this episode is mostly problematic. Most of this episode is a problem for me, but a lot of it is redeemed by that moment, that suicide, like killing Doug. I think that is one of Telltale's best scenes.
Absolutely.
And I think one of their biggest mistakes is not ending the episode after that scene.
That's what I wanted to say. Where it's like the first half of this episode, I love, even with the train bullshit and Lily being a bitch. I love the first half, but it peaks way too early.
There's a lot of downtime in this episode,
and I understand, like, wanting to soak up the silence of the moment, but it's not silent. It goes back to more puzzles. It goes back to Kenny not wanting to move so I can grab a map, so I have to go out. Oh my
god.
So I have to go out.
Hated that sequence. Oh my god.
So I have to go out and talk to Chuck, and he'll offer, I have to find the booze and bring it to Chuck. So it offers it to Kenny, so Kenny will get his ass up and move. And it's just like,
it drags on forever.
It makes no sense. It drags on.
Just grab the fucking map, dude.
Seriously. I don't give a damn if your wife and child just die. Get your fucking ass out of my way and let me grab the map.
Stupid.
Yeah. And then I in the past, I liked the scene with Clementine, cutting her hair.
Yeah, I like that
her
scene.
To shoot. I like it. I still like it, but to me this time it didn't have the same impact as before.
I think it just fleshes out that relationship nicely. I think this episode you really start to feel that bond strengthening, and playing through it, I started to feel it. I started to feel like protective of her in ways I didn't feel in the first 2 episodes, and I think a lot of it, I noticed it especially when they were doing that thing where they were leaving like potential zombie Duck in the back with her, and I was like, why am I letting this happen? Why am I letting them stay back there while I'm not there? Like, no, that's bullshit. So it's kind of like I realized my own, like, that bond is forming through the frustrating limitations of the game.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
So can I guess I'll go on my little tangent about how I find trains inherently romantic.
I'll just sit back for this one.
I won't be long, but it's
fine.
I find that was just one of my notes. I think that was like one of my very first notes I jotted down, because I love, despite how frustrating the most of the train stuff is, puzzle wise, I really love the atmosphere of being on a train and being like, not even like it moving, just being in the middle of nowhere. It's like almost like a surreal moment of this train just stopped in the middle of nowhere.
And you know what I think aids that? And I was very frustrated with it this playthrough, because one of the best touches in that sequence is how what's the homeless guy's name?
Chuck. I think it's Chuck.
How he's like strumming the guitar as you're doing that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Egregiously affected by an audio glitch this playthrough. I could hear everything but the guitar strumming. It was very disappointing, because I remembered how cool that was from last time.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. Oh well. Telltale.
Yeah. But I just find it funny that one of my, like, as far as like atmospheric stuff, trains always like gets me emotionally, but it's just all the puzzles and then Duck dying. It just kind of sours that mood of the romanticism of the train. It's just oh man. Have I ever told you how much I love Thomas the Tank Engine? Have I ever brought that up? Ever? Okay, well, my love for Thomas, at least like old school Thomas the Tank Engine, reinforces, like, that started my I think Thomas the Tank Engine started my love for cinema, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it when I was a little kid, but not
Yeah.
since.
I can go back now as an adult and appreciate the craft and like cuz a lot of it was practical, like almost I think like all of it was practical effects, and I loved watching all the little miniatures react to certain things, just the
Sure.
atmosphere of the trains and the beautiful scenery and the island they were on. It's just it's so nice to look at and such a great feeling to it. And every time I see trains, especially trains reflected against snow or sunsets or desolate environments, I just find to be just
Hey man, I
I
mean for
love it.
that you have Thomas the Tank Engine and I have Dr. Zhivago, so hey.
I have never seen Doctor Zhivago.
Oh,
I
and this
have it on
if you
DVD.
like snow and trains, man, you'll be all over that shit.
Nice. I think my mom has that on DVD. I'll have to sneak that from her one of these
I
days.
think you should probably spring for a Blu-ray for Dr.
Oh,
Zhivago.
all right then.
Anyway,
Anyway,
that was a bizarre aside.
yeah, fucking Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh my god. Well, okay, so then what else? We haven't talked about Krista and Omid yet.
I I'm more indifferent towards Krista and Omid this time around, at least.
I like Omid.
I do too.
Krista for me feels a little bit too much like a Lily 2.0. Like like
kind
not as
of.
not as extreme, but
Like
there are
there's
little
hints of
things where
it.
she's kind of like make like she'll like make points about things, and part of me just wants to be like this is none of your business. Please just leave
Yeah.
like back off. I don't really want to have to justify this to you.
I hate it
And
when characters are just immediately distrusting of you. Like
yeah.
especially when you have Clementine with you. She just gives you this constant dirty look. And I'm kind of like, what have I done to you?
Like right, I mean, I get that they're in a post-apocalyptic environment,
Yeah.
and there are lots of bad people out there and all this shit. But it really does become kind of tiring to keep putting in characters like that.
Yeah.
And as I like, it seems weird to be like you can't just give me a character like Omid. You have to temper that with this other half. You know that this other half that's really sort of obnoxious and grating to deal with, and it's just it's frustrating. I don't.
I think
I wish they didn't do it.
yeah, their introduction too is coupled by, of course, the oil tanker part, which I honestly find that to be more annoying than the train bit, because at least the train bit is we get that shit out of the way before the duck scene. Then after that happens, which is the high point of the episode, one of the highest points of Telltale's career, then we have to go in this, like I said, the long oil tanker, and you got to go to the building, dude, and it's just.
I totally forgot that was after Katja committed suicide.
Yeah.
That's truly crazy. You should not. That's just bad structure. Like you should not be carrying this on that long after. That scene is the climax. Like that's the ending.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to give the tanker and to do the tanker thing and add Kristen Omid, okay, but do that before the fucking suicide thing. That's just nuts.
Yeah. It's the pacing of it, just like all the lessons they learned from the second episode in terms of pacing and saving the best for last for the climax. I feel like they just scrapped all of that and completely forgot and just went back to their old ways.
And come on, how perfect is it? Like that suicide scene ends with the camera slowly panning up from above with like the bodies on the ground, and it's like this it's like this fade to black as you pan. I mean, come on. How do you not end it there?
You could have just had. Well, I think I would have preferred like them getting back on the train and everybody just staying silent, and then not like completely scrapping the oil tanker bit, having Krista and Omid with them before all this, have that, and then have them like sitting silently on the train, and then the camera like pans up to them finally reaching the harbor with the sun and all that. I think that would just be. And have like no dialogue whatsoever, just to sit in silence.
I think they should have opened the next episode with that. I really think it was a mistake to do anything after that suicide scene.
You know what I forgot?
Like, I want no falling action. I just want climax end. Like just brutalize you at the last scene.
You know what's so great about this series, as far as the writing goes? It makes me forget that there are zombies in this series.
Yeah.
Like when the zombies popped up at the end, I was like, "Oh, that's right. This thing has zombies in it."
Which is dangerous because the TV show does the same thing, but the TV show, that's a problem because the TV show, the characters and the drama are not compelling enough to carry that, and it becomes really fucking dull. But like with this game, the writing and characters and everything is so much better than that terrible show.
Oh,
so they're able to pull that off.
Yeah, and I've always liked the like I said, I'm not a big zombie person, but I like the way they're portrayed, at least in this series, where they're almost not exactly an afterthought, but it's like after all of this terrible emotional stuff, having to deal like human on human dilemmas, and then you have the zombies like walk up in the background all slowly and menacingly. It's like, oh, that's right. It's just, you remember, and that makes it scarier. Yeah, to me at least.
Yeah. Is that it? Are we already at top 5?
I guess so, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you go first.
Oh, me? Definitely episode 2, my number 1 still. Okay, I guess even with the duck scene, I'm going to put Batman ahead of this because I think Batman saves the best for last. At least I think. Sure. I think in terms of pacing, it is much more focused and more exciting and consistent and efficient. But and then I'll do this episode because God, that whole just the mistake of having. And I still think this episode is very, very good, even with all my complaints about it. I still think it's a quality episode, but it has some big caveats there, big pacing issues, big flawed story structure that even like the amazing Duck and Katya moment, just it can't elevate it above Batman for me. And then of course, Walking Dead episode 1 is my least favorite so far, but it's still good.
All right. Well, yeah, we have the same number 1. Episode 2 of Walking Dead is my top. Then I still have episode 1 of Walking Dead at number 2, Batman episode 1 at number 3, and this is my number 4. I, for the most part, don't like this episode. I'll just flat out say I think most of this episode is bad, honestly. I think it has some highlights. I think obviously the suicide scene is probably one of the best scenes Telltale's ever done.
And you don't see it. That's what I love too. You don't see it. It just happens like right in the background, and it makes it more shocking.
Yeah, and you know, actually, my other favorite scene in this that we didn't even talk about is at the beginning when you have to decide whether to let that girl get killed or you shoot her.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. So what did you do?
Okay, so the first time I played it, I shot her. This time I didn't actually.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, but I did not. I let her cause a racket, and I just used her as a distraction.
I've always used her as a distraction. I've never once thought to shoot her. I don't know why. I'm always like, well, she's going to die anyway, so I'm just going to just let her cause a distraction so I can get the medical supplies.
Part of me, the first time I did it, also kind of thought that, yeah, she's distracting them over to there, but she's going to die soon, and then she won't be making noise, and then she'll just be a zombie. And the whole time she's been screaming, she's just drawing zombies to our general location. So it's probably not a good idea to just keep drawing things toward our location.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And also I did just like feel bad letting her get devoured. But yeah, I think there was still like a hangover of the end of the second episode where I wanted Lee to be a little darker and nastier, which I still kind of feel like I wish they would let me do a bit more. But oh well.
I think that argument, that disagreement that we have, is going to come to a head in the Tales from the Borderlands climax.
Ugh. Fucking Tales from the Borderlands.
Which is probably my favorite Telltale series ever.
I think the first episode is one of the best things I've ever done.
Really?
And I think it just goes downhill from there.
Oh wow. I think the first episode is the I flat out didn't like the first episode when I first played it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was so really disappointed. I was so bored, and I literally had a tough time staying awake during the first half of it.
But it's so cinematic, and it is such a great like pace and build and scale, and it's funny, and it's got this really unique sort of atmosphere for Telltale. The characters are interesting. Like I love that episode.
I just was not feeling it during the first half. It's when they get to the Mad Max Coliseum at the end. That's when I'm like,
great
okay.
finale.
I'm like, okay, now this is getting good. But everything before then, I was like,
the scale of that, you could end a whole game with that, let alone like forget about an episode.
Sure.
That's a huge finale.
Yeah. But I think, at least in my opinion, I think the series gets much better after that, culminating with one of my very favorite episodes from them ever.
The single worst Telltale episode.
Oh my god! I wish. Like that episode to me is is like my gold standard for big budget blockbusters. Like if a movie ever came out that played exactly like how I would play it, I'd be like A+ right there. That's like
man.
one of my A+.
You know what I think? I think we should do. Obviously, we're working through Walking Dead and Batman, but I think Tales from the Borderlands should definitely be next up after that.
Oh really? Oh wow. Okay.
I think we should. I think we need to talk about this.
Okay. I'm like, honestly, the series I'm most excited to talk about is the first episode of Wolf Among Us. Honestly, that's like that's the one I'm looking forward to talking to the most. But I am definitely for getting Tales from the Borderlands up, moving that up, because
well, what I mean, hey, we and if we want to, we can always jump back and forth. You know, it doesn't have to be totally set.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Where can people find you, Jordan?
I am at @5th_opinion on Twitter, and my old podcast Fifth Opinion is still on iTunes and YouTube and all that shit. And if you like Kanye West, I am on Watching the Throne podcast pretty regularly.
And you can find me at Razorblade Mango on my YouTube channel, where I talk about finally started getting 1080p 60 frames videos on my channel, which is nice. Oh, that's right. Have you heard of this like Mos Eisley Star Wars project?
Yeah,
I
haven't like looked at it at all. I've heard of it.
I doubt your computer can run it, but it's so
wow. What an insult.
Sorry, it's just
no. You're completely right.
But oh man, you want to talk about rich atmosphere? Just oh my god, beautiful.
Didn't Obsidian do that?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
But there's no like actual gameplay. It's just like you're just running around Mos Eisley and you see the Millennium Falcon and the cantina and stuff like that. It's really cool, especially for something that's free. And we have a Twitter account now.
Nice.
So I will definitely be linking that, and you'll see tweets from either myself or Jordan. Next goal is to make a Facebook page, and then after that, I still gotta hook up my old computer and get the previous 2 files for iTunes.
What's the Twitter handle?
Oh, it is. Give me one moment, because someone stole point and click. So fuck you, whoever did that. It is going to be @point_click capital ATTP.
Oh, a Telltale. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah. So thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. And yeah, seems like about it.
All right.
Later.